some senior in ATC who was highly instrumental in
Rajendra Shekhar, and your second.
ready on a repeat again.
WhatsApp లో
30 minutes can talk. But it does not the examination results when the exam by your phone பண்ணோம் priorities எல்லாம் இருக்கு அப்படின்னா maximum 30 minutes. Sachin Tendulkar ஒரு பால் ஃபேஸ் பண்ண ரொம்பவே கிரிட்டிக்கல். So to face one ball and negotiate that ball. The total number of balls faced by Tendulkar is 29,316 balls. Aircraft control is facing more number of aircraft in this career than number of balls faced by Tendulkar. The statistics pretty powerful. 150 to 200 aircraft per week. Multiply that by 50 and multiply that by the number of years every year on service. It would be definitely more than 30,000. Hey, the sound is better. Right here. Sound better. Sound is next in the room. Very land are sound next in the top of the Naimullah converter bharenge. Initial direct personal post on the very நாலஞ்சு தினம் முன்னாடி சுதர்சனம் கிலோமீட்டர் மெயில் வந்து சார் 80 செகண்ட்ல சார் டாப் அவுட் போடுவீங்க. என்ன டாப் மோட்டிவேஷனல் சார் அவார்டே பேசுறீங்க. தென் நைமுல்லா கான் கால்டு நான் V8ல ப்ரொஃபசர் 86 யுவர் நோ 86 அப்படி தென் ஸ்டோரி ஓ நம்ம இப்போ ரெடியா பண்றோம் இது
சூடா பண்ணு.
வரதான் பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கும். அதில் அப்துல் கலாம், பிஜே, நாராயணமூர்த்தி, இந்திரா நூலி யாரெல்லாம் பெரியவா வந்திருக்கிற அவார்டு மாதிரி கிட்டுறது கவர் பண்றது அந்த கிரேட் லேக் இருந்தாதான் மதிப்பு இருக்கு. இதை வச்சு கூட நான் போட்டோ பார்த்தோன்னே என்னென்ன மதிப்பு இருந்துச்சு எத்தனோட போட்டோ எங்க போட்டோ கொஞ்சம் மாதிரி லோகோ இருந்தா தான் வேல்யூ. Ready, right? Battery எடுத்தா 2-3 hours ஓடணும். 30 minutes தான் ஓடணும். இதுல ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்றது என் கழுத்து வரதான் பண்ணணும். அப்படி வரப்படாது. நானும் வரணும்.
Good morning to all of you. So now we come to the second session of today's event. Krishna here. So, he has come here to give a motivational talk on how to remove clutter from your life. And just a brief profile about him. He's a director and senior associate professor in Great Lakes Institute of Management, Chennai. He has done his PhD in cloud computing. He's got triple degrees, one from Houston University in energy management and also technology from IIT Kharagpur, and also a management degree, double gold medalist from GLIM Institute. He is also a very famous speaker in national and international seminars. He has traveled to various countries and is also a consultant for Tata Consultancy Services. Okay, now I invite our regional secretary, Mr. Manimaran, to welcome him with a bouquet and also to give a welcome speech to the audience.
Good morning, everybody. It's a very memorable day. I think still Shekhar is in our heart. And now we are going to have a voice and words which is going to pierce and going to settle in our heart. And I welcome everybody on this day. And a special welcome to our chief guest, who is going to be the speaker of the day, Mr. Dr. Ishwar Krishna Iyer. I think you must have seen the website or in the YouTube. It's very famous. I've gone through it, and he has a lot of strategies, more innovative, and he will definitely energize you people in this motivational talk. And let us get energized on this day. Remember Shekhar, Vijayendra Shekhar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So here I go. I promise that I will not take more than 30 minutes. We can have a Q&A prepared for another 5-10 minutes, and then we'll definitely close to 45 minutes. So talking about my topic, if you remove the life part of it, the topic is about decluttering. And it is slightly ironic that I come and talk about decluttering to a set of distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are experts in decluttering. Your job is to declutter the sky, both in horizontal terms and in vertical terms. If the sky is not decluttered, we'll neither be able to land nor be able to take off. So day after day, hour after hour, it is your brilliance, it is your perseverance that ensures that the Chennai sky near Meenambakkam Airport gets decluttered such that our flights can safely take off and safely land. But I'm going to talk to you today about decluttering life. So, 10 tips to the experts who are decluttering the sky on how you can declutter your life. Motivational speaker is too heavy a word for me. I'm not very sure whether I deserve such a high epithet, but I'm certain at least 2 or 3 of the points of the 10 tips which I'm going to give you, you'll carry with you when you go home, and it will resonate with you for a fairly long time. So let us start straight away with the 10 tips. Your tip number 1. As I told you, your daily job is decluttering. Not everybody's job is decluttering. I do hardly any decluttering. But your job is to maintain 100% surveillance in a small sector. Once you're glued into that screen, keep looking onto the same screen. Sometimes in some airports, you have the luxury of looking out of the window also, and ensuring that aircrafts do not come beyond a particular distance closer. You cannot afford them to come closer either horizontally or vertically. So your northwest sector, southwest sector, northern sector, eastern sector, depending upon the type of the runways, the number of runways, which runway is operational at this point of time, you are glued to the sky. And you are experts in ensuring that nothing else comes to your mind. You are trained by the system to ensure that absolutely nothing comes to your mind when you're focused on decluttering the sky. One mistake will cost several hundred lives. A single mistake, and it never happens. I've hardly heard in 55 years, and that is my age. I've hardly heard in 55 years any report telling that 2 aircrafts collided because air traffic control went to sleep. Nowhere. In 55 years, I've never heard once, and for this, I clap for you. So this is an area where human error is obviously possible. One small slippage, one small talk, one casual telephone conversation, and the flights come dangerously close. It has never happened year after year, day after day, session after session, airport after airport, personal after personal. So you're skilled at that. My doubt is, do you translate that skill to your real life? It's an obvious competence that you carry. Do you translate that competence? Do you apply that skill outside air traffic control? That is where you have to be very, very careful. Most of the time, you would think that decluttering is something which I need to do in my office. Anyway, 8 hours, 10 hours shift, that's what I'm doing. Let me now rewind and relax. I'm not going to do the decluttering thing. But since you're gifted in decluttering, continue doing that. Think about it. Your wife is expecting you to teach your child, and the child is studying 8th, 10th, 9th, 11th, 12th. How many of you dedicatedly focus only in teaching the child, or are you looking at WhatsApp and Facebook also the same time? Remember, the wife is also noticing, and the sad part, the child is also noticing. The child is noticing the negligence that the parent is bringing into the table by simultaneously looking at an activity which is not a value add, when you're supposed to be focused only on what you're currently doing, and that is teaching the child. You're going to teach him half an hour a day in a subject in which you are apparently good, maybe physics, maybe chemistry, maybe English, maybe Hindi. And the child expects you to give true value add for it at that point of time. Do you give it? Most of us make the mistake. I also make the same mistake of doing something else during mealtime. Mealtime is supposed to be appreciating the wife, appreciating the mother who has cooked the meal for him. It could be a simple rasam or super meal. How many of us tell that? None of us do. Mobile is the biggest distraction. Media is another distraction. And much before mobiles and media came, memories are a distraction. So if you want to look at what are the 3 M's which are distracting you, even much before mobiles came, much before media came, your memory is a distraction. Things which you're unnecessarily afraid of, things which you're unnecessarily worried about, things which you're depressed. These are the things which you carry everywhere, into every activity, and specifically to bed, specifically to dinner table, where you need to be a conversationalist. You need not be a brilliant conversationalist. You can maintain some normal routine conversation with the family. They're expecting that. Do we do it? We don't. So we do not know how to focus on the one thing that we are doing. During meal, only meals. During prayer, mostly we do that because there are signals which we get from God in which we need to focus to get something. After all, it's a transaction with somebody whom we don't see. So unless you're completely focused on God, the transaction does not get complete. So irrespective of religions, we are reasonably focused when we are praying. Even there, not everyone. Not everyone. The Father has to remind the mobile phone should be off during Sunday Mass. That is a current trend. But are we focused enough? Is question number 1. If you are not focused, the 3 villains are 1, the mobile phone, 2, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everything, and 3, your memories. How do you keep your memories in check? How do you avoid thinking about relationships which were not useful to you at all? I'm not talking about those extreme relationships. I'm talking about any relationship which is not adding value. Most of the time, think carefully. What you're worried about is about some unnecessary relationship which is not of any value add to you. How can you remove those thoughts? How can you become the air traffic controller at home? Focus exactly on what you're doing at that particular point of time. Trick number 2. Since today happens to be the remembrance day of one of your favorite colleagues, I thought of bringing in one of my favorite colleagues onto the screen. His name is Dr. Professor S. Sriram. We lost him in 2016 to a massive heart attack. He was not even 60 at that point of time. And he taught me a very, very powerful thing about 10 years back. He taught me to make a daily to-do list. He used to carry a yellow paper which can fit into either the pocket or the wallet. I don't know why it was yellow. Since he used to carry yellow, I also carry yellow. I have tons and tons of those. It looks like the yellow card which is shown in football. A small piece of paper. It is a hard paper, so it doesn't crumble. I've got tons of them at home, tons of them in office. And just before I hit bed on a given day, I write what are the things that I need to do next day. The moment I got Madhavan sir's call, this is what I wrote day before yesterday. I had to prepare the PPT. This is a PPT made fresh for you. Absolutely fresh. So I made this PPT over the weekend. So finish the ATC presentation, and then people need to know who's going to come and talk to them. So make a small poster on what the presentation is and send it to ATC so that they can put it up wherever they want to put it. My other activities include talking to this boy and getting the whole camera work, because I knew that we were going to land here at 10:40, MP is going to talk up to 10:30, and I hardly get 15-20 minutes to set up the whole thing. So conversing with him doesn't make sense here. So I conversed with him in advance yesterday itself and set up this link so that we are comfortable when we are coming here. For my other normal college activities, preparing questionnaires, answering reports, making the marks chart, round to sum up and things like that. So this list, once it was ready on Friday night, I have removed the clutter from my mind. Not that there is no other seventh thing to do, but if I do these 6 things, my weekend is good enough. I hit bed and sleep peacefully. I have unburdened my list of activities onto a piece of paper. When I wake up next day morning, this small piece of paper, a fresh list, greets me with a good morning. I simply go to follow those 6 things, and do I stock it somewhere? Do I save it somewhere? Never. The moment that work is over, I tear it and throw it into the dustbin. That energy is gone. I prepare a fresh list for the next day. How many of us practice it? It is easily worth practicing, both for office and for home. A practice which I've been doing, which I learned from Dr. Sriram years and years ago. I do it systematically every day, at least for the last 1 decade. My point number 3 is avoid toxic people. God has been nice enough to create nice people. All of us are nice. No doubt about it. All of us are nice people. But God has not been nice enough. That is not God's job, actually. It's your job, my job. God has not been nice enough to ensure that all those nice people are nice to us. Their nicety does not get transferred to us every day. True or false? So that is not God's job. So let me divide people into 3. And I call that the 18-19-1 rule. 18-19-1 rule. 80% of the people are nice, and by and large, they're nice to us also. We are lucky there. 80% of the people are moving. 19% of the people, they could be nice, they are not, they might not be nice, but I do not know about them. They do not reflect their nicety to me. But the last 1%, 1 out of 100, are clearly not nice. Am I an exception in understanding the world like this, or you're also in sync with me? Have you also seen this 1% people? It could be 2%, it could be 3%. I'm just picking it at 1% to make myself happy. 1% of the people whom we meet are simply not nice. What do you do with them? These are their characteristics. They are always negative. They are negative about everything. They are negative about you. They are always criticizing. Some of them have reason to criticize. Some of them have no business with you at all. They'll still criticize you. Why? They're not that way. They'll keep criticizing you. They're always wasting your time. They are always jealous of you. A terrible malady. They are jealous of you. They always play the victim card. They are always highly self-centered. I, me, myself is their motto. They really don't care about you. And some of them explicitly make it clear that they don't care about you. And that leaves you very disappointed, because you want everyone to care about you. It doesn't happen. Everyone doesn't really care about you. So it doesn't happen. So in such a scenario, every interaction which you have with them leaves you drained out, zapped out of energy. Then why interact with them? Every memory about them is a negative memory. Then why carry memories about them? So my advice is avoid toxic people. Broadly categorizing them, they could be neighbors, very, very quarrelsome ones. They could be your colleagues, unfortunately. They could be your relatives. I have found out ways and means of avoiding relatives and avoiding neighbors, but avoiding colleagues who are arrogant, conceited, quarrelsome is something which is slightly difficult and trying to cope. We all get them, irrespective of where we are working, what we are doing, we get all of them. So, how do you avoid toxic people so that it keeps you happy? No point in thinking about them. It spoils your health. Don't think about it. This is a golden rule which has come from the Chinese philosophy called Feng Shui, which is equivalent to the Vastu Shastra which we practice in India. Chinese Vastu is simply called Feng Shui. And it talks about any simultaneous situation where something positive is just about going to happen and something negative ought to be removed from the system. The sequence always, it is a golden sequence. You can write it, mug it up, and do whatever. You can put it as a front screen of a computer. You have to first remove the negative, then bring in the positive. First remove the negative, then bring in the positive. I'll give you a very simple example for this. Many a night we would wake up badly wanting to go to the restroom. True? Yes. There are nights in which we wake up badly wanting to drink water, we are feeling thirsty. Both of these things happen. But there are very few nights in which we wake up having this simultaneous feeling of thirstiness as well as wanting to relieve in the toilet. I can guarantee you, if you wake up at night with both these feelings, the sequence in which you will do doesn't change at all. You will first go to the toilet, relieve yourself, then drink water and hit it. It cannot be the other way. Desperately wanting to go to the toilet and then hunting for where water is, drinking it. It doesn't happen at all. So, first remove the negative, then bring in the positive. This is a philosophy. It can be practiced in a million ways. In a million ways. One simple example would be, you need to have a telephonic conversation with someone. You need to fire someone, shout at someone. Some mistake somebody committed. You need to inform the secretary that her mail had a lot of spelling mistakes. And you see her first thing in the morning, you think, hello, not more. Then you see her during lunchtime, don't postpone that thing because that is going to be remaining in the back of your mind that this was a mistake somebody did. I want to correct that person. Simply go through that negative part first, and then the whole day remains for doing the remaining positive things. I can think of a million examples. These philosophies are not new. Indian culture used to know it very, very well. Take Pongal. For those of my friends here who are not from Tamil Nadu, you might not fully know the nuances of Pongal, but I believe most of us are here from Tamil Nadu. There are 4 days for Pongal, and it follows exactly this philosophy of first discard, then tidy. First discard, then tidy. First remove negative, then bring in positive. What's the first day for Pongal? The first day for Pongal is Bhogi Pongal. What do? We simply scan our entire house, take up all the things that we do not want during the entire day, things which we have not discarded, we bring it all together, put it into a nice bonfire. I'm repeating the word nice bonfire. It's a real fun. It's a real pleasure to see our worries, our irritants, our discardables going up in fumes. Imagine we can do that in real life. I have a set of worries, 15, 20 worries, which I can put it into a small packet, put it outside in a veranda and then light it up using camphor. That will be a wonderful thing. This is equivalent to that. Today, environmentalists, the green brigades, people who are shouting that Diwali should not be having crackers and things like that are spoiling the real fun of Bhogi. In Bhogi, if you are permitted, please burn what you do not want. It lightens the mood. It lightens the house. It lightens the mind. So you have discarded, then comes day 2. Day 2, once the discarding part is over, then you come in to bring in positivity, which is what we call as Thai Pongal. Invoke the sun god, prepare all sort of nice things, and take in that positivity. As much payasam, vada, and all those things consume it. And since we were primarily an agrarian society, and large chunks of India still continue to be an agrarian society, we will still love our jallikattu. On day 3, protect the ecosystem around you by spreading that positivity to your animals. Because without your animals, without your ecosystem, without the ancillary support, you cannot survive. So whatever you did for yourself, the positivity that you have, spread that positivity to your animals, which is day 3, Matu Pongal. And once that positivity is settled, freak out and enjoy on day 4, which is your Kanam Pongal. So this sequence we already know. You remove, discard, then bring in positive, and then enjoy. So this is exactly what I told us. First discard, then tidy. Tip number 4. Tip number 5. Segregate work and office. At least in ATC, I'm reasonably sure from what I have read that 50% of this you are trained to do. You are trained not to bring your office, not to bring your home to office. There would have been any number of training sessions to tell you that all the tips, mood swings and conflicts which you are having today morning or yesterday evening at home should not be brought to your work because your work is extraordinarily sacrosanct. But the vice versa is not true. The training department of this organization probably does not tell you that do not carry the headaches of the airport back home. That you do. Your wife is not responsible for the delayed flight. Your wife is not responsible for one runway getting suddenly cancelled and the entire operations was shifted to the second runway. Your wife is not responsible when 2 flights are just about to take off. There is one flight coming in with a minister, and that flight has to be prioritized. So you ask all the remaining flights, all the remaining pilots and navigators on the ground to hold on till the other flight lands. Your sequencing, routing is a functional of political importance. So that leaves you frustrated because the pilots are there on the ground is cribbing because he has got connection flights from Mumbai to Dubai and from Dubai to Frankfurt. So what do? So you handle all these conflicts, it's hundreds and hundreds of decisions. Somebody was telling me before I started talking, it's about 36 transactions per hour. So that leaves you tired. And some of this tiredness, some of this arbitrariness, some of these six mood swings, conflicts, and upsets, you straight take it back home and give it to the wife or give it to the husband. Those innocents are not responsible. They might be working in Apollo Hospital as a doctor and they have enough of their own worries. They might be an innocent professor handling students and they have their own worries. Why give your worries to them? So this segregation of your work pressure and family pressure, decluttering work and family, which you do one way very well, you have to do the other way equally well. When you're talking about clutter removal, my point number 6 is start removing digital clutter. We are trained to do that very well. Our machines are thankfully trained to remove digital clutter very well. How? When a mobile phone has got a lot of downloads, a lot of photographs, mobile itself prompts you, can we start cleaning up the mobile? So what you do is simply give it a nest, and mobile will clean a lot of unnecessary files, dump files, temp files, and all those things, and it will lighten the mobile. We are easily capable of doing digital clutter removal because they do not carry any baggage. But unfortunately, we do not have the skill for doing the same for physical clutter. Physical clutter in the sense, things which you can see, and they also need to be removed. Why we cannot remove physical clutter? There are 3 reasons. 1, there was a financial commitment to buy it. Look at those lamps. We all have those lamps. When power used to go once upon a time, these days power does not go at all. Whether DMK or ADMC, power doesn't go, thankfully. When power used to go, this lamp automatically used to come up and used to be there for about 30-35 minutes. How many of you have such a lamp at home? We all have. I have 2-3 such lamps at home. I don't use it at all, but I don't throw it at all. Because one of those lamps was purchased by my father. He passed away 22 years back. The lamp is still with me. So my financial commitment, my emotional attachment to the product, and the bequeathal angle, somebody gave it to me. Papa Kudtar, Tata Kudtar, and all those things. Those commitments ensure that I keep it somewhere, and it is not used at all. That keeping it somewhere, anything that is accumulating in any part of the house, any thoughts that are accumulating in any part of your mind, which are not going to be used at all, is definitely going to be negative. Which is what we see in horror films as if in a home, the home is not occupied for a fairly long time. We see ghosts occupied that home, haunted house. Ghost might be false, haunting might be false, but negativity is definitely not false. Anything that is unoccupied for a long time, negative energies tend to come and occupy it. You would notice it when people retire. You check with wives or husbands who have been in respectable positions, important positions, leading big ticket teams, and they're retired. Talk to the wife after 6 months. She will tell you she has gone mad in the last 6 months handling this man. He used to handle 5 ATC terminals, 8 ATC terminals, the entire north sector, west sector, east sector, shout at people. Today he has nobody to shout. All he's shouting, he shouts it. Standard. So we do not know yet how to remove physical baggage. So to learn how to remove physical baggage, at least start with your digital baggage. Clean your laptop, clean your mobile, clean your Facebook account, remove unnecessary posts. If you're on the verge of getting married, I don't see too many young people here. Remove some of those fancy photographs which you had with people whom your wife to be will notice and things like that. So the Facebook looks completely clean a day before the marriage. My 7th tip is be creative. Unfortunately, we are not lucky enough to be a Rajinikanth. We don't sing like an SP Balasubramaniam. We are nowhere near an A.R. Rahman in terms of his creativity. But then there is a very, very diluted version of a Rajini or an SPB in all of us. How to bring that element out? You don't need to be a famous dancer or a singer or any of those creative, extraordinarily known talent. You can be creative in your own ways. And for me, one of the best ways of creativity is simple baking. Cooking itself is creative, baking is more creative. And when I'm talking about baking, I'm talking about men. Ladies anyway spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and many of our sisters are good bakers. I'm talking about men. Try to get into the game called baking a cake. The amount of creativity that you can bring into it, the type of things that can go through a cake, the million options which you can add together, starting with the most simple, quarter kilo maida, quarter kilo sugar, quarter kilo butter, and a few spoonfuls of vanilla. From there, you can keep on adding more and more and more and more and more things. And baking by itself will become a nice hobby, plus an excellent snack for your child, and he or she is coming back from school. Photography is a great hobby. People like Dave. Tungarani. Photography is a great hobby. People like us spend tons of money and tons of time in simply traveling and taking video logs and posting it somewhere. Need not be a passion for all, but for those who like photography, you and your camera, may or very tanhai and Hindi Rajalramari, you and your camera is a good enough combination. Blogging is a great thing to do. Whatever you know about writing, keep writing. I don't know whether you're authorized to write about air traffic control, but incidences which are happening in air traffic control, which are strictly not very confidential, write about it. No harm. Instrumental music. When we are planning to learn a guitar or play a tabla, we are not going to become a tablaist anyway. But that keeps you occupied. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, instrumental music, terrace gardening, the list is absolutely endless. This is a very novel technique. I've almost come to the 10th one, we are at 8. Just 2 more to go. We are doing well in time, sir? Yeah. Thank you. There is a model called the 5S model, which was primarily created by the brilliant Japanese to improve their production efficiency. This is an industrial model, and it works originally very well for the famed Japanese consumer durables industry, consumer electronics industry, automobile industry, and things like that. But this can be easily replicated in our own lives. We need to know what those 5 S's are. There are some fancy words in Japanese for these 5 S's. Since I don't know Japanese, neither do you know Japanese. There are simple English words for that. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. 1, 2, 3 are the basic steps. 4 and 5 are the perpetuity steps. What is 1, 2, 3? 1. As I told you, start sorting. Sorting anything. It could be sorting your wardrobe, sorting your kitchen, sorting your garage, and finally it ends up sorting your memories. When you sort, you will find that you will get 3 bins. Absolutely unnecessary bin, unnecessary bin, and necessary bin. 3 bins. And you'll be surprised to find that most of the things which you're carrying are absolutely unnecessary. I, today morning, checked on this by checking at my own shirt wardrobe, and about 27, 28 shirts I could easily find, of which, at least in the last one corona year, I have not worn 20% of them, not touched them, அப்படியே. nicely folded. Now touch them. The top 3 or 4 shirts are which I keep rotating again and again and again and again. This coat, if you have seen my YouTube videos, has come in the 4th video. I like this coat for some reason. I have about 6 or 7 coats, but I picked up the white coat. It looks good. So what's the point in having the remaining coats? I have 3 blue coats. I have not used them. One blue coat is my marriage coat. I was 56 kilos when I got married. I am 92 kilos today. And I have to stand like this if I am wearing that coat. My hands will not come down. So what's the point in having that coat? But the moment I decide to throw it away, my wife, gone. That sentiment keeps me attached to a coat in which I will never be able to get in. If I want to get back to 56 kilos, I have to diet for some 10 months or something. I'm a strict dieter between meals. 4 meals a day, I diet only between meals. So no way I'm going to come anywhere below 90 kilos. So absolutely unnecessary things, throw it away. Literally throw it away. The second one is an interesting one. There are sort of unnecessary things, but you cannot completely throw it away. I'll give you one example of that. My mom, for various reasons, we all have such moms at home. My mom is 83. For multiple reasons, has got a fancy for plastic covers. Any plastic cover which she gets, it will be useful. Plastic covers are useful only for packers and movers. I'm not a packer or a mover. I don't pack anything from my house and distribute it to others. So in a year, my daughters got married about 10-20 days ago. And these days, whatever my wife makes, a small parcel will go to Thiruvanmiyur. So I've recently started packing. Otherwise, why would I require tons and tons of covers? Open any drawer of mine in which my mother is handling. You'll find about 50 covers falling down. She would not even leave plastic covers in which milk comes. She purifies that cover, washes it, puts it in a clip for drying as if it's something so sacrosanct, folds it and keeps it somewhere. The people who are smiling when they're listening to this story have an identical mom at home. So what do? I wait for that particular day in which my mother is not there. She would have gone to some Tiruvannamalai or something. Take 80% of this course and throw it away. I'm willing to face the music when she comes back, but then my house has got diluted, and that 20% cover is enough for the next 1 year. I don't pack anything. None of us pack anything. Why do we require such a lot of covers? So when you do this process completely, you will get that actual useful bunch. What do you do with that? You sort it and set it in order and then put it in shine. The difference between set in order and shine, they're more or less the same. Set in order gives you a dry, functional, boring, utilitarian finish for whatever you want to have. Shine gives you the aesthetic finish. If you want an analogical comparison, set in order is your Aadhaar card photo. Look carefully, it is you only. No doubt about it. Your election card photo, your Aadhaar card photo is step number 2. But your Facebook photo, your Instagram photo is step number 3. Imagine somebody putting the Aadhaar. I have seen Deepika Padukone's Aadhaar card photo. It will take half an hour to recognize this Deepika Padukone. Without makeup, you will not recognize it. So it takes time and some minimal effort to move from the so-called Aadhaar card photo to a Facebook DP. That is all what is shown. Look at 2 types of kitchens you can easily imagine. A kitchen where Manjapudi, Mapudi, Kurumulaga, and all those things are available, you know where it is, but a kitchen doesn't look clean. Is one kitchen. The same kitchen where you know everything again, Manjapudi, Mapudi, etc., where it is, the kitchen looks absolutely clean and very well labeled. Which kitchen would you like to work? Would you like to work in the second kitchen? So that is shine. Bringing in an element of aesthetics beyond the dry, boring order functionality. So once you're through with these 3 steps, we develop a process for the same and sustain the process of step number 4 and 5. My tip number 9 is cleanse through writing. Many a time we do not know what, many a time we are worried. We all have our own set of worries. There is no way you cannot have worries. I have my set of worries. You have your set of worries. Pen out those worries. Put those worries in paper. The advantage is, when you're not penning out those worries, you do not know what that worry is. And you're worried that you're worried, without knowing what you're worrying about. So try to seriously take a pen and paper. Nobody should be there with you, particularly not the wife. The coffee would be a good company. And start thinking, what is it that is worrying you? And try putting it in pen or paper. If you cannot put it in pen or paper, you're wasting your time worrying. Why worry on something when they do not know what you're worrying about? That is exactly what the film is all about. How many of you saw the film Dear Zindagi? Dear Zindagi talks about a very young girl, Alia Bhatt, who has got reasons to worry, but she is not sure what she is worrying about. And then it took a doctor, thankfully, the doctor was a brilliantly understated performance by the one and only Shah Rukh Khan, one of his best performances today. I can only rate Chak De India comparable to the performance in Dear Zindagi. Very different from the conventional Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham sort of performances by King Khan, in which he slowly tries to bring out from this girl what she's worrying about, and ultimately he could find out. Neither the doctor knew nor the patient knew till the end of the film that the girl was worried about abandonment. She would get into relationships, come out, because she never trusted relationships when she was a child. Her parents semi-abandoned her. Structural reasons, the parents were not bad ones, but structural reasons for which the parents abandoned this girl. And that left, she was a very, very young child, about 8 years or 9 years. The character was only 8 years or 9 years at that point of time. That left a deep scar in Alia. And it required a psychiatrist to bring out that scar. And the moment that came out, the moment it moved from the inside zone to the outside zone, Alia Bhatt got killed. We all have those sort of worries. So the advantage is if you're writing it, you're able to cleanse it through writing. You will take those worries outside. And the moment those worries are outside, the inside burden comes down. And second thing, when you see it, you can solve it. I can solve things only which I see. So the moment I start seeing what my worries are, I might start thinking about what could be a solution. Which brings me to the last tip. This is actually very, very easy for men, slightly difficult for women. Biologically, men are trained to do it. Women are not trained. There are any number of YouTube videos which you can see in which men are capable of doing nothing at some point of time. Close your eyes and think about your husband. Men who are in this audience would not know because they cannot think about themselves. But the ladies in this audience can definitely visualize their husbands. You would have noticed this chap doing nothing. And you get wild about it. True or false? No, he's not even watching TV. And sometimes he watches a 1983 match. The 1983 match was over 18 years ago. The results we know very well. Kapil Dev won the toss, elected to bat, and all those things we know. This chap is actually not watching the match. He's pretending to watch TV and he has moved to his nothing zone. He's doing nothing. So just to ensure the wife that, what are you doing? TV watching TV. Just to beguile you that he is doing some activity, he's watching TV. He's watching golf. He does not know how to play golf at all. Watching some inane thing and doing nothing. Men are wired to move into that nothing zone. That is why probably the amount of emotional stress for men are slightly on the lower side compared to women. These are not biased statements. These are all well-documented statements. Women tend to be slightly more harassed, slightly more worried about things in general than men. That is because they do not know the art of doing nothing. Do absolutely nothing. And if you want some tools to practice that doing nothing, yoga is a very good tool. Now, there are experts today in doing nothing. They are your children. Your children currently are capable of that, boys or girls. Thankfully, they have learned this art. And this generation called the doing nothing time as me time. Have you heard this word? Children using the word me time. Amma, it is my me time, don't disturb. He or she will send a WhatsApp to the mother. The mother is in the next room. There's a WhatsApp coming. Amma, don't disturb me for the next 30 minutes. I'm in my me time. And you can, why? Up another me time. They have understood the value of being selfish. Selfishness sometimes is a value. Do not share your time, your thoughts with anyone. Just remind yourself. What is wrong in that? I'm not telling you to be selfish throughout the day. Selfish for 15 minutes, selfish for 30 minutes, no harm. And that today's children who are currently 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20, 22, they know. They spend a lot of time, and their key way of keeping outside distractions away is that fantastic device called headphone. The moment they might not even be listening to music, but today's children are addicted to having a headphone with them. It is simply giving a signal to the parent, I do not want you near me right now. I am into my world. When I am coming down for dinner, I'll spend time with you. I'm currently in my world. So how do you do that? It is not a skill which you cannot practice. You can also practice. Get into yoga. Long walks, I don't know where in long walks, Chennai is possible. Outside my home, Thuraipakam, impossible. Outside airport, completely impossible. But inside airport, I think it is possible. Take care of your body very well. Any sort of body massages, therapy, etc. would be useful for you. Simple coffee. Simple coffee would take you a long way. And the slower you're trained to drink that coffee, the more the me time which you get. Do nothing. Pretend to read a newspaper. It could be, I often enjoy yesterday's paper more than today's. Why? In yesterday's paper, I don't have to read anything. I know the news. In today's paper, I have to think and read. So I prefer to take yesterday's paper, day before yesterday's paper, etc. and pretend to be reading. I'm not reading anything. I do nothing. And the last is music. How many of you know a singer called Harish Sivaramakrishnan? Anybody here? Okay. There are three things which I like about music. In these passions, my passion is music. There are three things that this is my last part of my pitch. Three things which I like about music. I couldn't connect them together till Harish connected it. The three things are, one, I love the words. I'm basically from Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram. So my understanding and depth and rigor of Malayalam is far more richer than my understanding of Tamil. Tamil is my mother tongue, but my Malayalam is far more rigorous. The poetic understanding of what is written in Malayalam, I would know it far better than Tamil. So I always used to enjoy good poetry, and a lot of good writers write poetic Malayalam. They write poetically in all languages. Kannadasan and all those people write beautifully in Tamil. Second thing is I'm a Carnatic music aficionado, and I love those songs which has got that Sangati version to it. A bit of Carnatic music ending in some swaras and Sangatis and all is the second thing. And third thing, we can all sing well, provided we sing slightly slowly. The S.P. Balasubramanian speed, the K.S. Chitra speed, the K.J. Jesudas speed, we cannot sing. Only they can sing. If we slightly slow down the same song, we can sing it reasonably well. So these things I knew as disconnected things, but I couldn't rigorously practice till I found this wonderful gentleman, Harish Sivaramakrishnan. And somehow he does exactly these three things. He selects those Malayalam songs which are completely rich in meaning. It takes you to the greenery of Kerala, to the 60s, 50s Kerala. 60s, 50s India itself is beautiful. 60s, 50s Kerala is extraordinarily beautiful. Vannati Pureda Tirtha and all those things evoke a lot of nostalgic memory in you. He brings in that Carnatic element in that song and he simply slows down the song. I am not a singer. Are you studied that? Let me try to sing 2-3 lines of what Harish Sivaramakrishnan does. And this is a tribute to that wonderful gentleman called Harish Sivaramakrishnan. And someday we plan to meet him. Either in 2021 or in 2022, there could be either a Madhavan or a Manimaran somewhere there who would call me to some occasion, and on that day I would meet Harish and have an interview with him in my own YouTube channel. But this is how he sings. I'm not a singer and never sing, publicly at least. Let me try. 2 lines? Please. Neelarávil Ninte Tararamilaki Neelarávil Ninte Tararamilaki Somabimba Kantiyegum Shitagamiki Parvati Parinayayamai Atire Devangane Kulirayam Gurujanamrudananayu Neelarávil Ninte Tararam Milaki. 60% of you do not know Malayalam. So you wouldn't understand what those lyrics are. But still, I took you without paying a single penny, the lovely green fields. I'm not a musician. But that is how I keep my BP low. Each of you should find out what is your way of doing nothing. Whenever we travel, we maximum take the permission of our wife. If our parents are alive, we take the permission of our parents. I'm not going to call my uncles and aunties, but there is one person whose permission, if I do not get, I do not travel. His permission and his team's permission. It is you who permit us to see a New York, see a Shanghai, see a London, see a Paris, see a Rome. Every time my flight is taking off, there is a hidden airport traffic controller telling the decks have been cleared. This flight will be easing off in the next 10 minutes. And thank you for making our flying a great piece of experience. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for the horrible singing. பாடினதே இல்லைன்னா ஒரு சும்மா ஒரு தைரியத்துல கொண்டாட்டி தெரிஞ்சது ஃபெயிண்ட் ஆயிடும்.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful speech. Can we give one more applause for Dr. Vishwa Krishnaiah?
தப்பா எடுக்கும் போது சின்ன ஹெல்ப் பண்ண முடியுமா? டேய் தம்பி, இந்த கேமரா கொஞ்சம் திருப்பிட்டு அதை கை தட்டுறது போட்டோ எடுக்க முடியுமா? டேய் நீ தானே சும்மா இந்த கேமரா லேசா திருப்பி நன்னா கை தட்டுது. கேமரா திருப்பி ஒரு நிமிஷம் மாறும்.
Keep on clapping and click.
ஐயா வெயிட் தம்பி நீ கேமரா திருப்பியா? ஸ்டார்ட். கேமரா என்ன பார்த்துட்டு இருக்குதா கண்ணா? அவ கட்டது எப்படி கிடைக்கும்? மன்னிச்சுடுங்க, இதெல்லாம் அரகன்ஸ். கையத்தட்டு வாங்க, அதெல்லாம் திமிரு தமிழ்ல சொன்னோம். ஆனால் வீடியோல போடுறது இதெல்லாம் பார்க்க நம்ம பார்க்கறதா ஒரு லைக் கொடுப்போம். இந்த வீடியோலயே விளையாட்டு லைக்ல தான் ஓடுறது. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So before we end, three things. One thing is we call him for a motivational talk, but he has given us one extra offer with a song to motivate us. And I think we are privileged because he said that he's singing for us for the first time in the public. Thank you very much. And second thing is when he said men are good at doing nothing, I could hear my wife speaking. Thank you. Yeah. And the third thing is like the best takeaway which I personally carry is the effective way of dieting. Anyway, jokes apart, the speech was a wonderful one. It was all day-to-day issues, what we know, what we have come across, but then we don't do it or follow it consistently and regularly. This is what he has been re-emphasizing. Thank you very much, sir. Now I invite Mr. Manimaran, Regional Secretary, to give a vote of thanks.
It was a very effective speech, and it was a more important thing which I would like to ask sir to share about with Sriram, because Sriram is a co-brother of our Mr. N. Ganesh.
Exactly.
And he was the pioneer in making a draft about the ATC Corporation, and he had given a presentation at our ATC Guild, ATC Day on 20th October at Delhi also.
I forgot to mention that the person who prepared that report, it was my empirical study. I did not mention those associations. Sriram and me did that. Sriram was my guide. As I mentioned, I was a student in Great Lakes in batch number 2, a gold medalist in Great Lakes. So my empirical study was at that point, I think Praful Patel was the Civil Aviation Minister. And my study was on how we can look at navigation systems and find out what could be the cheapest way for looking at hand-holding navigation charges when flights are not landing. You take navigation charges not only when the flight lands, you hand-hold it, say the flight is going from Singapore directly to Mumbai without touching Chennai. There is still a charge that has to be paid to the Chennai ATC because you're hand-holding that flight from the Bay of Bengal sector and into the Mumbai sector. So which would be the most appropriate for doing that? I have done an empirical study. That is how I'm slightly familiar with the terminologies in ATC plus. Obviously, I'm an electronics engineer, so instrumentation handling system, etc. I studied before I think these boys were born. So a million years ago. So that is my familiarity with ATC. I did that study. Sriram presented it in Delhi.
Yeah. Sriram was instrumental for us, and followed by Sriram getting Ishwar is another gift for us, because licensing our ATC corporation, he has the ideas, and he had given the correct touch to the hearts of each and every one. I think it will be reaching all of our controllers all over India in our YouTube, which is in our website. And we should be very, very thankful for this particular lecture, and thank each and everyone who has taken part in this function. I think all faces are glowing after this lecture. That is the greatest
Behind
gift.
the mask.
Yeah, behind the mask.
Definitely. தெரிஞ்சுக்கலாமா? சும்மா ஒரு satisfaction இது.
Mask கொஞ்ச நேரம் எடுத்துடலாம்.
ஒரே செகண்ட்க்கு மாஸ்க்ல எடுக்கலாம். Thanks.
Can see. Thank you. And life is short, happiness uncertain, death comes to all, prince and peasants alike. True knowledge is to know one's own ignorance, and mind in peace more than a surplus of assemblies.
நான் எதிர்பார்த்ததை விட million times happy, million times more happy.